From sharing mammoth meat around a fire to billion-dollar corporations controlling entire nations to governments owning literally everything, this is every economic system that has ever existed. And spoiler alert, while some created massive wealth, others led to people literally eating zoo animals to survive. But first, let's start at the very beginning with the economic system that lasted longer than any other, the traditional economy. Imagine living 50,000 years ago when your biggest economic decision was whether to hunt the mammoth or gather berries. Traditional economies are based on customs, habits, and beliefs passed down through generations. If your dad was a hunter, you became a hunter. If your mom made pottery, you made pottery. It's like the ultimate family business, except there's no corporate ladder to climb. Today, you can still find traditional economies in remote parts of Africa, South America, and some indigenous communities. But here's the thing, while traditional economies are stable and sustainable, they're also super limited. No innovation, no growth, just the same stuff generation after generation. But humans being humans, we got bored and invented something way more complicated: feudalism. Now this is where things get spicy, because feudalism is basically economic Game of Thrones. At the top, you have the king who owns all the land. Below him are nobles who get chunks of land in exchange for military service. And at the bottom are peasants who work the land and can't leave without permission. It's like being stuck in the worst job ever with no 2 weeks' notice. Feudalism dominated Europe for about 800 years. And while it provided stability and protection, it also meant most people lived in poverty with zero social mobility. You were born a peasant, you died a peasant, end of story. But feudalism started cracking when the Black Death killed 1/3 of Europe's population. Suddenly, peasants had bargaining power because there weren't enough of them left. And that's when capitalism started knocking on the door. Capitalism is the economic system that probably affects your daily life the most. It's based on private ownership, free markets, and the pursuit of profit. The invisible hand of the market decides prices and who succeeds or fails. Adam Smith, the father of capitalism, wrote about this in 1776, the same year America declared independence. Capitalism has created incredible wealth and innovation. I mean, you're watching this on a device that exists because of capitalism. But it's also created massive inequality and economic crashes. Remember 2008? Yeah, that was capitalism having a bad day. But speaking of bad days, let's talk about mercantilism. Mercantilism was the economic system that basically said wealth is a zero-sum game. Popular from the 16th to 18th centuries, it believed that global wealth was fixed, like a pie. So if one country got richer, another had to get poorer. This led to countries hoarding gold and silver, imposing high tariffs, and establishing colonies to extract resources. It's like the ultimate economic flex, but also incredibly destructive. Mercantilism fueled the slave trade, colonialism, and countless wars. Turns out, when you think wealth is limited, you'll do some pretty dark stuff to get it. But if mercantilism was all about hoarding wealth, socialism said, hold up. What if we shared it instead? Socialism emerged in the 19th century as a response to capitalism's inequality. The basic idea is that the community or government should own and control the means of production instead of private individuals. Think of it as capitalism's hippie cousin that believes everyone should get a fair share. Democratic socialism, which you see in countries like Sweden and Denmark, combines free markets with strong social programs, free healthcare, free education, and generous unemployment benefits. It's like capitalism with a safety net, but also higher taxes. So you win some, you lose some. But if socialism is capitalism's hippie cousin, then communism is its revolutionary brother who went completely off the rails. Communism. Karl Marx envisioned a classless society where everyone owns everything collectively. No private property, no social classes, and definitely no billionaires. Sounds nice in theory, but in practice, communist countries like the Soviet Union and Mao's China became authoritarian disasters. Millions died from starvation, government oppression, and economic mismanagement. Turns out, when the government controls everything, things can go very wrong very fast. The Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, and China had to embrace capitalism to avoid economic collapse. So much for the workers' paradise. Fascism. Speaking of disasters, fascist economies combined extreme nationalism with heavy government control over private businesses. Companies could technically remain privately owned, but the government told them what to produce, how much to charge, and who to hire. It's like having a boss who micromanages every aspect of your job, except the boss is a dictator, and disagreeing means prison or worse. Nazi Germany and Mussolini's Italy used fascist economics to mobilize their entire economies for war. And while it was initially effective, it ultimately led to destruction and defeat. But let's get back to some systems that actually work, which is basically what most developed countries use today. Mixed economies combine elements of capitalism and socialism. Private businesses operate freely, but the government provides public services, regulates markets, and steps in during crises. Think of the United States, where you can start a business and become a billionaire, but you also have Social Security, Medicare, and public schools. It's like having your cake and eating it too, except sometimes the government takes a pretty big slice for taxes. Now here's where things get weird. Some countries tried economic systems so bizarre, they sound made up. Cambodia under the Khmer Rouge, they attempted to create an agrarian utopia by forcing everyone to become farmers. Cities were emptied, modern technology banned, and millions forced into rice fields. The result? Over 2 million people dead in one of history's worst genocides. North Korea's Juche system, a mix of communism, isolationism, and personality cult worship. Famines have led people to eat grass and tree bark, while the government spends on nukes and statues. Possibly the worst resource allocation imaginable. Other new systems shaping the world, the gig economy, capitalism on steroids. Powered by smartphones, people work as contractors for apps like Uber or TaskRabbit. Flexible, but no benefits, no security, no retirement. The sharing economy, renting instead of owning cars, tools, even homes. Eco-friendly and cheap, but makes wealth building harder. Post-scarcity economics, a sci-fi vision where tech makes goods nearly free. 3D printing, AI, and fusion power could make traditional economics obsolete. Cryptocurrency and DeFi, digital currencies aim to cut out banks and governments. Some see revolution, others see bubbles. Either way, it's volatile. State capitalism, China's model. Private business exists, but government controls major industries. It's lifted millions out of poverty, but created new problems: pollution, surveillance, and repression. Circular economies, nothing wasted, everything reused, recycled, repurposed. Fashion, tech, and construction are already experimenting. Economic systems aren't just theories. They determine whether people live or die, whether societies prosper or collapse, and whether the planet survives or burns. Traditional economies lasted millennia because they were sustainable. Feudalism provided stability, but trapped people in poverty. Capitalism created massive wealth and innovation, but also massive inequality. Socialism aimed for equality, but often stagnated. Communism promised utopia, but delivered dystopia. Fascism mobilized economies, but for destruction. Mixed economies balance freedom with safety nets, but imperfectly. There's no perfect system. Each is a trade-off: efficiency versus equality, freedom versus security, innovation versus stability. Context matters. Culture matters. Timing matters. Today, the global economy produces $100 trillion in goods and services each year. Yet the richest 1% control 40% of wealth, while the poorest 50% control less than 2%. The future? Artificial intelligence, climate change, and digital money are forcing us to rethink economics. Maybe we'll see AI-run economies, resource-based systems, or something entirely new. One thing's for sure: the system that dominates the next century will determine whether humanity thrives or just survives. And unlike our ancestors, who had thousands of years to evolve their economies, we might only have decades. But hey, at least we're not stuck trading mammoth meat anymore.